Kanye West is someone that you've apparently heard of. He's one of the more, if you haven't, just a quick Wikipedia entry here, one of the more famous music acts of the 2000s. He sold about 40 million rap, hip-hop albums in that span. Most of it profanity-laced and so forth, as you typically expect from that genre. Kim Kardashian is Kanye's wife and is more famous than Kanye. If you don't know who they are, I promise you've seen their face every week at the grocery store checkout line in the tabloids for the last 15 years. Something has started to happen. About a month ago, Kim Kardashian and her 3 children were baptized in the Armenian Orthodox Church, which is a church that obviously isn't Catholic, but is closer to Catholicism than lots of other Protestant denominations. They still have a valid priesthood and Eucharist, etc. Kanye started hosting religious revival prayer services around the country on Sundays. In this past week, Kanye released a gospel hip-hop album titled Jesus is King that speaks to his conversion to a follower of Jesus Christ. This is not a homily about how Kanye has said the most profound things in the history of Catholicism or Christianity. I'm not going to break down the text of any of the songs, but there is some good stuff in there. I've listened to it a couple of times driving back and forth. I would still suggest scripture in the catechism and about 200 other saints, as opposed, or would probably be more profound than Kanye's songs, but the same also applies to me. I would suggest the catechism and scripture and several hundred other saints before you listen to me. And yet, Jesus tells all of us, me, Kanye, and you, to speak, to talk, right, and to be prophetic. What I want to preach about today is, again, not the text of the song, but the reaction to Kanye's conversion that has taken place over this past week, which I think is very interesting. The reaction that it's received from outside Christianity, but also from within. Some people say Kanye is probably not being sincere. Maybe he's doing it for money. Some have said, well, he might be really sincere now, but he might fall back into his old ways. He might. He might not be sincere right now. He might be doing it for money, or he might fall back into his old ways, or he might be sincere now, fall back, convert, fall back 80 more times. I have no idea how authentic his conversion is, and neither do you from 1,000 miles away. But I'll tell you, I stopped a long time ago trying to figure out whose conversions were authentic and whose were not. Because as a priest, I baptize lots of children, and I stand at the doors of the church, and I ask the parents, do you promise before God and this whole community to raise your child in the faith? And everyone says yes, and not all of them do. And as a priest, I've been through RCIA for 10 years, leading the classes and giving everyone a year to think about it. Weekly meetings, talking about what it takes to be a Catholic. Do you want to do this? Are you sure? Are you double sure? Taking all year. And everyone says yes, the people that join the church and the people that get baptized. And just like around the rest of the country, 50% of the people that go through RCIA don't stay in the church. And there are people who go through seminary for 4 years or 8 years or 12 years, some of them whom I've been in seminary with. Do you want to do this? Are you sure you want to be a priest? Do you know what it takes? Years, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into these people and into us. And then, like Cardinal McCarrick and other people, they hurt children. So I stopped trying to decide a long, long time ago, from thousands of miles away and from a distance, who means it? Whose conversions are real and whose aren't? But what I want to talk about is it does strike me that Kanye is very much like Zacchaeus in today's gospel, right? Look at what we have in Zacchaeus. We have a worldly, wealthy man who everyone despised because he took their money. He was a tax collector. People hated him, and he hated them. He was in it for the money. And Jesus comes to Zacchaeus and says, I want to dine with you. Zacchaeus, that day, then invites Jesus in and experiences a conversion. Whether or not it lasted, we don't know. Did Zacchaeus dining with Jesus take the route of St. Peter, who dined with Jesus? Or did Zacchaeus take the route of Judas, who dined with Jesus? We don't know. But that day, Zacchaeus welcomed Christ into his home and had a conversion. What else happened that day? It says this: the Pharisees grumbled, saying, Jesus has gone to eat at the house of a sinner. Sound familiar? He's dined with St. Peter, dined with St. John, he dined with Judas, he dined with Zacchaeus. And at Mass, he's dined with you and I, offering himself as the main course. We don't know where our story is going, even though we've dined with Jesus, right? We don't know where Zacchaeus' story ended up. We don't know where Kanye's story will end up. Some people that Jesus dines with become saints, and some people that Jesus dines with become Judas. But this is also, I don't want this to be also a don't judge homily, although we shouldn't typically judge a person's conversion from afar. I should judge actions. If Kanye stood up and said today or tomorrow that Jesus isn't the king and we should leave Jesus Christ, then I can stand up and say, that's bad. That's not true. We should judge actions. If Kanye makes his old music again, I can judge that act. But if people who are close to me do something wrong, I should judge that and speak up to them and say, stop doing that. I'm your friend. I love you, and that's a bad thing to do. Don't do that. And people should say that to us. We should allow people in. But armchair authenticity judgments from thousands of miles away are gross, and they are wildly inaccurate. Here is the point of this homily. It's in the first reading. And God says in the first reading that God rebukes us little by little. And we might not like that word rebuke. So another way to say it is God is very patient with us and works with us little by little. It means that God is giving and showing to us the next small step that he is asking us to take. The step that he's asking you to take. Oftentimes, very rarely does God say, I need you to do a 180. Sometimes he does. But the vast majority of time, God is asking us to take a little step today. He's revealing something small, something that we can handle. He knows us, and he knows what we can and cannot handle. When I was 18, he was asking me to do small things. If he'd asked me or showed me this is what I want you to be doing at 40, I would have run away. But he said, I want you to do this thing next, and this thing. And then that led me to those small steps, imperfectly, have led me to being the priest here, right? God is patient with you and I, and God is patient with Zacchaeus, and he's patient with Kanye, and he was patient with St. Peter, and he was patient with Judas. Some people respond to God's nudges, little by little, the small things that he's asking, and some don't. He usually doesn't show us all the things we need to fix in ourselves because it might crush us or get us to despair or think, I could never go that far, right? Some people might read St. Therese or John of the Cross and be crushed by how far away those saints are from us. Perhaps, for those who can't handle Therese yet, the words of Kanye or a person even like me might be the way God chooses to nudge us forward, little by little. And so in conclusion, what I ask you to do today is to go to God and say, Lord, What is the next thing you are calling me to do? The next step to take? A small thing that I need to get rid of, or a small thing that I need to add to my life? Jesus wants to dine with us too, and the Pharisees will grumble, but God is working with us little by little. We thank God for his patience, and we get to work with a sense of urgency because our salvation, as always, hangs in the balance.